Hello, this is Vijay Rana. Welcome to the Friends of India Society International UK podcast, 50 years on remembering the emergency. FISI UK serves as a credible and influential voice championing accurate, positive narrative about India on the global stage. It actively challenges misinformation and propaganda through well-researched facts and informed dialogue, while supporting and empowering the British Indian diaspora. 50 years ago, Indian democracy came closest to dictatorship when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared the emergency on June 25, 1975. In that darkest hour of Indian democracy, civil liberties were suspended, press censorship was imposed, and political opponents were arrested. To discuss the impact of emergency, we have with us Sri S. Gurumurthy, who is a prominent Indian economist, chartered accountant, journalist, and a socio-political commentator for his nationalist economic views. He is the editor of Tamil political weekly Tughlaq and a co-convener of Swadeshi Jagran Manch. He is also the chairman of Vivekananda International Foundation and is also on the board of Reserve Bank of India as an independent director. Sri Gurumurthy gained national prominence in the 1980s through his investigative journalism in the Indian Express, where he exposed several high-profile corporate scandals. An advocate of the Swadeshi economic model, he passionately argues in favor of the indigenous industries and self-reliance over Western-style capitalism. He is widely treated as one of the most powerful media voices in India. Sri S. Gurumurthy is deeply influenced by the traditional Indian philosophy and frequently draws on Hindu cultural ethos in his economic and political analysis. He is widely respected for his intellect and straightforward views. Gurumurthy ji, welcome to the program. Tell me why the emergency was imposed and what happened then in India.
Before answering that question, I would like to say why after 50 years we have begun talking about this horrendous experience the country underwent. What happened the last 4 decades, the great danger that India underwent, almost its democracy being eclipsed. It's not debated in this country. And why the debate has come now, I will set this as the context in which we will be moving to the text of emergency. We must thank Rahul Gandhi for making the debate on emergency relevant by his holding the Constitution of India as he took oath in the parliament that assembled after the May 2024 election, saying that he has come to defend the Constitution of India. The man did not know that the Constitution which he was showing was not the Constitution that prevailed in 1977 when his grandmother declared elections. That Constitution had completely destroyed the original Constitution. And the original Constitution which Rahul Gandhi was holding in 2024 was not the Constitution which Mrs. Gandhi had enacted in 1977 by using the emergency powers. She had instituted a constitution where there will be only one single party rule. All other parties could be banned. And that was achieved by Article 32A of the Constitution brought in by Mrs. Gandhi by the 42nd Amendment, which gave her the power to ban any political party, any organization, which would even call for a strike. For example, if the BJP had spoken about Hindutva or Ram Janmabhoomi movement, it could be banned under the Constitution. If somebody had formed a an OBC party or scheduled caste party that could be banned under the constitution. That means there would be only one party, and that would be the Congress party. Rahul Gandhi did not know this. So he showed the constitution which is prevailing today and not that constitution. And that was a full toss bowled at Modi. Narendra Modi seized this opportunity to say that 25th June is Constitution Hatya Divas. So the constitution which you are showing was destroyed on 25th January, and that had to be reinstated by the Janata Party, of which more than 40% strength belonged to the Jana Sangh, which is now the BJP. That is why this emergency has become a relevant issue. Otherwise, this has been buried. All the documents of emergency were buried because the people who fought the emergency fought among themselves, and a section betrayed the people of India who restored democracy and sided with the perpetrators of emergency, with the result for the next 34 years, out of 34 years, 28 years the perpetrators of emergency and their dynastic successors ruled. Now, the debate on emergency, what we are discussing today, has become relevant only because of the foolishness of Rahul Gandhi in showing that constitution which had grandmother had abrogated. Now I will come to why the emergency was imposed. Emergency was imposed basically because Mrs. Gandhi was in her DNA dictatorship, autocracy decided. Now I am going to quote to you the record which a joint secretary, her close joint secretary, P.D. Tandon, had maintained, in which he had recorded well before the emergency came. I am quoting. This is on December 31st, 1974, 6 months before the emergency was declared. I am filled with foreboding. A crisis is building up. The main cause of the crisis is the Prime Minister. She is completely lacking in tolerance, which is the very essence of democracy. She is not at all interested in the values in which her father had done so much to foster. Nor is she deeply acquainted with our constitutional framework. She will not relinquish power regardless of what happens. In brief, the Prime Minister is only concerned with her power and rule. Such persons trend rapidly towards fascism. They have no reservations about becoming dictators. This is recorded by her own joint secretary in the Prime Minister's office. If you want to look at how emergency built up, it started in 1969 when Mrs. Gandhi broke the Congress, and it turned a whole national movement, a party which enveloped the whole country, which represented the whole country, and turned it into virtually her own affair, and later her family affair. And in 1972, after she won the 1971 elections through the Garibi Hatao fake slogan, she passed constitutional amendments to overturn the constitution, to say fundamental rights will be subordinated to the idea of socialism in the directive principles of the state policy. So the Supreme Court overruled it, said it is wrong. The judges who overruled it were superseded by the Prime Minister for the first time. Punishment of the Supreme Court judges for giving a constitutional ruling. See, these are all the stages by which she was explicitly saying, I will rule. Who are you to ask? Then she talked about committed judiciary, committed bureaucracy, committed media, and that is how the JP movement started, because she was becoming an uncontrollable affair. And in 1974, when the movement was building up, that is when Tandon recorded that she will go to any length. And in June 12th, 1975, the Allahabad High Court gave a judgment holding her guilty of corrupt practices, which means unseating us as a member of parliament, and she ceasing to be the prime minister, and she cannot contest the election for 6 years. That is the law. And she had to overcome it. And so bigger rallies were held and all that. And finally, the Supreme Court gave a judgment which was an interim order, which was so humiliating that she can retain her membership in parliament, but she cannot speak or vote. This was 24th January, June 1975. Then she decided that she must do something by which she will completely shut down the judiciary, the country, the parliament, the media. That is the emergency declared on the midnight of 1975. This is the background to the.
And so this is the background, but then what kind of steps, what actually she did to suspend human rights, or what kind of shackles she imposed on the press and media? Tell me the impact on the nation of her actions.
There were several stages in which she ensured that democracy was shut. In the first few days, she arrested all the political party leaders, all the important leaders, union leaders, who had anyone who could have made the people react. She arrested them under a draconian law called Maintenance of Internal Security Act. Just 6 days before the emergency, she amended the law to say that she could arrest anybody without disclosing the reasons for the arrest. And after shutting all of them down in jail, she banned the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which is one of the most powerful organizations which could have resisted. In the first month, she crushed the media. Media crumbled. As Advani said, when the media was asked to bend, it began crawling. In the second month, constitutional amendments were carried out to nullify the High Court judgment by which she was unseated. These judgments, these laws were made retroactive. I will tell you how that law was passed. That will give you an idea as to what kind of procedure was being adopted. On 7th August, 39th Amendment to Bill was introduced in Lok Sabha. It was passed on the same day after a 2-hour debate. On the 8th Friday, it was introduced in Rajya Sabha, passed without debate. On 9th, it was passed by all state legislatures. On 10th August, the president gave the assent. On 11th August, Supreme Court began hearing the election petition. And the Supreme Court disposed of the case based on this law and making her unquestionably prime minister again. This is how she maimed the parliament, made the judiciary crawl and even sing praises for her. Slogans were shouted by the president of the Congress itself. Indira is India and India is Indira. And the whole country was shut down. And then she went one step further, told the Supreme Court what the emergency powers means, which I am going to quote to you, it will shock. She told the Attorney General to tell the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court asked, you have suspended all the fundamental rights. You have suspended the fundamental right to equality, right to assemble, right to speak, right to organize, right to have a political party. Everything is shut down. But do you mean to say there is no right to life? On the 16th of December 1975, Justice Khanna asked the Attorney General, he said the right to life is mentioned in Article 21. Would the suspension of the rights extend to the suspension of the right to life also? The Attorney General was instructed by Indira Gandhi to tell this to the court. If during the emergency a police officer, because of personal enmity, killed another man, will there be a judicial remedy? This is what the Supreme Court asked. The Attorney General said, it may shock your conscience as it shocks mine. No proceedings can be taken in a court of law on that score, consistent with my earlier submission that there would be no judicial remedy in such case as long as the emergency exists. That is, the government can kill. And the government actually killed. This came out after the emergency when the Times of India carried a news on 24th May 1977. The Calicut Engineering College student P. Rajan died while in police custody, etc., etc., as a result of continuous police torture with iron and wooden rollers. The report ordered that the affidavits, including by the former Chief Minister Karunakaran before the Kerala High Court, admitted this killing by the state precisely as the cabal attorney told the Attorney General that the government could kill illegally. And I'm telling you how the shameless judges of the Supreme Court accepted this argument and even praised the emergency. The Chief Justice said, people are criticizing the emergency. People who have faith in themselves and the country would not paint pictures of diabolic distortion and mendacious malignment of the governance of the country. He is the Chief Justice. Justice M.H. Beck went even a step further. He said, the people who are in jail, how they are being taken care of. We understand that the care and the concern bestowed by the state authorities upon the welfare of the detainees who are well housed, well fed, and well treated is almost maternal. People inside the jail, they are beating seated like this. What's your problem? Chandrachud said, counsel after counsel expressed fear that during the emergency, the executive may whip and strip and starve the detainee. And if this be our judgment, we even shoot him down. Such misdeeds have not tarnished the record of free India. And I have a diamond bright, diamond heart, oh hope that such things would never come to pass. Justice Bhagwati, one of the most dishonest judges, I can say so, he said, my love for liberty should not cloud my interpretation of the Constitution. I may love liberty, but the Constitution doesn't. This was the state of the people of India. And the people began resisting this emergency. That is the resistance part. How the resistance came and how it exploded is part 2.
Yeah. In fact, I've just started my career in 1975 as a college lecturer in a small town of Western Uttar Pradesh, Bulandshahr. And I could see the fear among the people. Shopkeepers were afraid because they have to, put the rate list everywhere. Doctors were afraid. People's salaries were, suspended for months and years. And this very infamous sterilization campaign when thousands of people were sterilized forcefully. Could you remind about that? What happened then? Especially the family planning issue.
You see, as I told you, once they moved from state to state, when they told the Supreme Court, we have the right to kill, and the Supreme Court accepted that the government can kill during the emergency and there could be no judicial remedy. Anything could be done. Sterilization is a very small thing as compared to the fact that the government has the right to kill. This is a Nazi argument. One more, they destroyed and demolished many houses.
Yeah.
And at least 70 people died in jail. So, when lawlessness to that extent is made permissible under the constitution by the highest judiciary, why will not the executive run amok? If this is the constitution which was passed in December 1976 and it was approved, that is, the government has all the powers, and I can read out because it's not worth it. Only one provision is sufficient, which I mentioned, that there could be ban on all political parties other than the Congress. And the court cannot inquire into it. What the amendment that was carried out in the 42nd Amendment by Article 32A. And that constitution was signed by the president on the 2nd of January 1977, and having assured herself that that is the constitution which is effective now, Mrs. Gandhi declared the elections on 18th January and asked the people to vote on 19th March. She gave very appeal. She released the people from jail, and I received Advaniji he came from Bangalore by train. We went and received him, and we had a small meeting of people. He asked Advaniji, what will be our response? He said, if we contest the elections and we lose, which is most likely, because we have no money, our organization is in shambles, and the emergency has not been lifted. Our Karyakartas are in jail. So we will lose. In which case she will say, people have approved the emergency. If we don't contest the elections, she will say these guys cannot even contest the elections. They have run away. This was the state of the opposition.
In fact, this is
Fortunately,
very.
JP. Sir?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to stop. Go ahead.
Fortunately, JP was there, Kripalani was there, great leaders were there like Morarji Desai and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. They said we will all merge into one party and the issue will be only emergency, nothing else. And if that decision had not been taken, and if people had not been presented with an alternative, here is the perpetrators of emergency versus the fighters against emergency, the people would have had no choice. And the people of India presented with this choice, voted them out. And I will tell you how this happened. It did not happen just like that. The emergency resistance movement, I was involved in it. I wouldn't say that I had a great part, but I knew what was happening. And I had shut down my profession, gave up my employment and began working for it. And we all went and begged. People were in jail. Then we organized Satyagraha. People think Satyagraha was done by only a lakh of people. But we did the Satyagraha in such a way that Satyagraha would be seen by thousands and thousands of people who will go and talk about it. That in the stillness of the emergency, there are people resisting. This will, the ratio of people who will be informed about the Satyagraha in our calculation was at least 1:1,000. And that is how the news about Satyagraha went. And we published underground magazines. And the underground magazines were sought after. People used to sit together and read the underground magazine because that only gave the true news. So all this was welling up the people's feelings. And in the subterranean atmosphere, which was not known to the emergency cabal, who believed that They have shut down the whole country. The entire administration is in their hands. The media is in their hands. Money is in their hands. Police is in their hands. So they declared elections saying that they would get the endorsement. But I tell you what happened. Only one thing I want to show how the uh, Janata wave developed. And I am going to quote to you what happened when the first meeting was called in Delhi. The
Yeah,
underground
Ramlila
movement
Maidan, the great Ramlila Maidan meeting.
had,
There was a Ramlila Maidan meeting here.
yes. You see, the emergency underground movement had lit and kept the freedom flame of freedom alive. And I will tell you, in Chennai, in July 1976, we held a civil liberties meet. We were all, the police threat, we will arrest you. Cho Ramaswamy, Justice K.S. Hegde, then Ira Cherian, all of them addressed that meeting. It was a massive meeting. The police couldn't do anything because the tallest people came to the meeting, tallest people addressed the meeting, so the police could not arrest us. So we met Dr. Hegde in the night. We were in a small hotel we were staying, 4 or 5 of the Karyakartas. We asked him, Justice, we see darkness all around. What do we do? At that time, electricity used to go off in Chennai. It went off, but we had kept the candle light there. So Hegde said, "This look at this candle. The darkness is not complete because this candle light is on. So long as you keep the flame of freedom alive, the emergency will not kill you. It will not be complete." That is what the underground movement did. And this rally, which Mrs. Gandhi, she sent people on helicopter to see the rally. I'll tell you, this was addressed by Morarji Desai, Vajpayee, Charan Singh, Chandrasekhar, about which there is a description by a journalist. He wrote it was an act of defense, something which India has not seen before. Wrote veteran journalist Chandan Mitra, who covered the rally. The emergency was still in force, but people's response to the call of the meeting was overwhelming. The rally conveyed the mood of the nation. Suddenly, all of us knew Indira regime was collapsing. In an act of desperation, wrote Mitra, the government decided to run a super hit film, Bobby,
Yeah, Bobby.
on the Doordarshan to keep the people away from rally. Buses, the services were all suspended. You know it. You must have been there at that time.
Yeah.
Despite it, there was hardly an inch of space on the Ramlila ground. People walked miles to reach the meeting venue. You know how this rally idea came?
Mhm.
When the
Yeah.
opposition leaders joined together, how to meet this? Because this is a new situation. Everybody said we should organize district level rallies, 5,000 rallies. Vajpayee said, we don't have time to organize 5,000. We don't have the money to organize it. We will not even know whether rallies have been organized. Atalji gave the mantra for fighting the emergency.
Mhm. Mhm.
He said, बड़ी बड़ी गालियां होनी चाहिए,
Mhm.
हवा बने.
Yeah. Oh, वही
Yes,
हुआ भी. Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. I remember, in Bulandshahr, we were quite intrigued that the movie used to be at 7 o'clock in the afternoon, in the night. And on that day, the Bobby was filmed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So people, a lot of people left their schools and came home to watch the free movie Bobby, And those days, the movies on Doordarshan will be, 6 months old or maybe 2 years old. Well,
Yes,
Bobby was, super hit.
immediately what was released was shown. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is this people's move against the emergency was not built in
Mhm.
one day. It was a subterranean movement which the
Mhm.
RSS actually acting as the backbone. And millions of people were involved in spreading the news. And of course, we had our own strategic way of uh, Puta Yuddha also. So we spread the right information and exaggerated a bit to tell the people that the emergency regime is doing this. So the people were waiting for an opportunity. But the cabal, because there was no media, because they were fed only with what they wanted to listen, they said everything is hunky dory. They felt that they had the country in their pocket because 42nd Amendment has given them the right to run the country in whichever manner they wanted once they won the elections. They thought winning the elections is the only way, and that is why they declared the elections. And in the election, they had assumed they would win. But this underground movement had welled up the people's feelings so much that it proved, it got exploded as Janata wave, and it swept away these people.
Is it a classic case of courtiers surrounding a dictator and telling him or her what she wants to listen? So is that true that the intelligence reports were given to her that she is going to win the 1977 election?
You see, it is not only intelligence, Jyotish. In fact, that was the time I joined Ramnath Goenka as the advisor, the man who fought the emergency. Unbelievable man. He met Mrs. Gandhi when she split the Congress. He was a congressman till 1965. He resigned from the Congress because the Congress opposed the Gohatya ban. So he resigned from the Congress, but he was a congressman for life. And so he told Mrs. Gandhi that why did you split this Congress? She said, Mr. Goenka, are you my friend or my enemy? So Goenka stood up and said, the choice is yours. And that's how he began fighting. And the way he fought the emergency is, I was an eyewitness to it. His factories were shut down, electricity was cut, his machineries were auctioned, journalists were arrested, bank loans were cut, and he was threatened with arrest. The man did not watch.
And more than 100 cases were imposed? Do you know the number of cases?
But the cases that Mrs. Gandhi put were the cases to put him in jail. He is also a very clever man. He knew how to fight her. He had some confidential letters written by Feroz Gandhi and Mrs. Gandhi against each other. Feroz Gandhi was employed by Ramnath Goenka on the advice of Jawaharlal Nehru as the managing director of the business. They had a past association. And so she was also caught. If she had done anything, he would have blackmailed, he would have exposed her. So he fought the battle as a Chanakya. I was part of it. I was assisting him. I was helping him with that. But he told me on the 5th of January or 4th of January 1977, when I met him in Chennai, I told him, Ramnathji, we cannot carry on this publication for more than a month, maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks. He said, Guru, something will happen this month, before this month, and we will be all ready. Tell me what is it. He told me, when this happens, you will know. So the elections were declared. Afterwards, when I met him, how did you know this? He said, my Jyotish and Mrs. Gandhi's Jyotish were common people.
Okay. Yes, she believed, she greatly relied.
Jyotish also played a role in ensuring elections take place apart from intelligence. Intelligence assessment were corroborated by the Jyotish. But more important thing is their own assessment that there is no opposition. It's all over. And it was over. But the underground movement, hundreds of thousands of workers had kept the spirit of freedom alive, like what Justice K. Hegde said. And that is what overthrew Mrs. Gandhi.
Interesting. Now coming, after emergency, a Janata Party government was was formed, and we all hope that it is a great beginning, entire opposition coming together from left and right, all aspects. And we hope that there might be finally a two-party democracy. But then Janata Party disappointed a lot of people. Where did the Janata Party go wrong, and or where did they help her to come back?
You see, you look at it this way. Janata Party was formed to defeat Mrs. Gandhi to undo the emergency laws. It has done it. But it didn't have the idea that this cabal may come back to power if we don't stick together. So, without this larger idea that we have to stick together to prevent the emergency cabal from coming to power, they began fighting among themselves, and one section even went and shook hands with Mrs. Gandhi.
Yes.
That is how she
Raj-
was able to tell the country that these guys cannot unite to rule, only I can rule. Then she brought in the idea of stability.
I interviewed Shri Morarji Desai in 1987 on the 40th anniversary of the independence. And he told me that my biggest mistake was to bring Charan Singh back, because he has resigned from the cabinet. Only 3 or 4 MPs had gone with him. And then he brought him back. And then Charan Singh completely demolished. So he admitted in that interview that's on YouTube now that that was the biggest blunder of my political career, that I brought this man back who finally joined Indira Gandhi. And Charan Singh, in fact, Charan Singh arrested Indira Gandhi and then joined her. Tell me about his role. How would you assess him now?
See, Charan Singh was, of course, everybody has to be assessed on the basis of what they did. I mean, he was a very ambitious politician. Ambition is the greatest corrupting factor. And otherwise, he was a very honest politician. But his ambition corrupted him. And the most important thing was, that is where I think a perverted thinker can do great damage. They brought in the idea of dual membership. The BJP, that is Jansan people in the Janata Party, were also the members of RSS. How can you have dual membership? Either they resign from RSS or they quit the Janata Party. This was picked up by the secularists, by the minorities, by the liberals. And so that is the basis on which even a person like George Fernandez, Madhu Limain, these people fell for this argument. So an ideological color was given to ambition, personal ambition. It's very unfortunate. These are all matters for us to study, that you cannot keep a party together unless it has a common binding emotion. That is where the BJP realized that you can't be a political party unless you have a bond with a higher purpose. That's how BJP then Ramjan Bhumi and things like that. But Janata Party was bound to fail. But it would fail so soon was unexpected.
And there was a great disappointment in the nation. And in her second avatar, after 1980, did she learn from her mistakes, Indira Gandhi? Did she learn from her mistakes?
You see, it is very difficult for such people because her problem was as much within the party and outside. You see, she marginalized all the senior leaders who had touch with the people, whether it is Nijalingappa, K.C. Abraham, or Kamaraj, Sanjeev Reddy. She finished all of it. Ram Subhag Singh. And she established a direct rapport with the people, completely made the organization unique. You cannot run a country of, at that time, 700, 800 million people without the intermediation of an organization. You cannot run them only through bureaucracy. And so, without organization, she had to run. She had to bring in her lotus and then her own family. Of course, she must have had this idea of making the Congress a family party. And that is what she did. Sanjay Gandhi, then when Sanjay Gandhi died, she made Rajiv Gandhi resign as pilot, who was not interested in politics at all. So it became some kind of a family asset being passed on to the next heir, whether he has the qualification for that job or not. That is how the Congress was destroyed.
Well, this is a great, in fact, great internal tradition of the Congress Party that they want to pass on it as a personal fiefdom to their kids. How strong it was in Jawaharlal Nehru, because Nehru's role is quite debatable. Was he as wanted Indira Gandhi as her success? As his success?
See, there are stories and stories about it, but I can tell you only one thing. This Ramnath Goenka told me he had, when Lal Bahadur died, he had arranged a flight to take Kamaraj, and he himself traveled with that flight. And Kamaraj was completely distraught. So he asked Kamaraj, "What do you think?" He said, I don't. Then he asked Kamaraj, "Why don't you become?" He said, "I don't know Hindi. I don't know English. How can I rule this country? We can only help somebody to rule this country." See how great these people. They thought these things were a disqualification, that you must have a qualification to run the country. Then he said, "What do you think of Moraji Desai?" Kamaraj said, "A bit cranky." Then he said, "What do you want? What do you propose to do?" He said, "I want to consult our people and arrive at a consensus." All of them thought this lady is a cookie Gudia, and they will be able to make her do what they want. That is the syndicates. They never knew that Mrs. Gandhi was an accomplished politician. M.O. Mehta had written about her. Of course, it's a very, the chapter is deleted. It's a bad chapter, but the final words are very important. She had become a complete political animal. Well before she became prime minister.
Interesting, yeah.
Complete
And
fidget.
Nehru taking her on her foreign visits, was it a conscious decision? And because
See, there are two ways of looking at it. He actually didn't have anybody. So that is one way of looking at it. The other way is that Mrs. Gandhi also seized that opportunity. And she was, in fact, Raj Thapar has written how after Jawaharlal died, she wanted to re-enter the Teen Murti Bhavan, which is Prime Minister's residence, that he should not become Lal Bahadur's residence. She asked the elites of Delhi to come together to say that this must be turned into a trust. And she was so worried. She became sleepless for days that this will become the government thing, and she will not be able to be there. This is well recorded. So they never felt this country was, they always felt this country belonged to them.
Now, a lot of political argument today centers around constitution, that this is a sacred book, that's the only book India should follow, and opposition making a lot of noise, accusing Narendra Modi for undermining the spirit of constitution. How valid is this criticism?
See, so far as others are concerned, I don't know. Others make no sense at all. It is only the Congress which can talk about the constitution. So all that Narendra Modi has to say is, he has to print the constitution 42nd amendment, amended by the 42nd amendment, and ask Rahul Gandhi to hold it. Which is the
Mhm.
constitution Rahul will defend. And he has bound a full toss actually.
Mhm.
And it is, I think once Narendra Modi takes this position, Congress will run away. Because Rahul did not know there was a 42nd amendment, and the 42nd amendment contained these things, and it completely overturned the original constitution, and it created a one-party rule. All this he doesn't know.
Mhm. Do you have any insight into the fact that preamble was changed, socialism and secularism were added during the emergency, while most of the other changes were undone? Why did Morarji Desai government didn't change these words which were, which were entered into our constitution by backdoor? So,
Because, because socialists and secularists were there in the party.
mhm,
It is they only who broke the party.
mhm,
Janata
mhm,
Party was not ideologically cohesive.
mhm,
So he could not have done it.
mhm. And is there any, let's say, are we fully insulated now? Is there any possibility that in future a dictator, a very strong prime minister may come and impose something like emergency? Is
See,
in
hereafter
democracy
it is
safe
not
for future?
hereafter it may not be possible to impose emergency because the constitution has been amended to say unless there is a civil war, merely because you see there is anarchy and all that, you cannot impose emergency. This is the position. By unless you have a loophole like this, India will never come under dictatorship. It whatever be, it may have a very a kind of a more powerful leader, less powerful leader, a rickety coalition. Basically, India is a democracy. I tell you two things: the right to life and right to property. All these rights under the social contract theory of the West, which is the secular version of the divine right theory under the Bible. All the rights belong to the king, and the king can do no wrong. And the king grants these rights to the people, and he can suspend and withdraw it. This was the basis of the argument during the emergency, that the sovereign can do anything because the rights are given by it and it can withdraw it. So they talk about Magna Carta, that if somebody takes over your property, they have to give compensation. It's a very big thing. In India, when the British came and began acquiring properties, the Privy Council held in India, the king cannot acquire the property of the people compulsorily. And so they said all the acquisitions were bad. The British Parliament had to pass the law of land acquisition. Because these rights are not granted by the king. It is no biblical concept that operated in India. The idea of dharma operated in. The Privy Council held it. So where is the question of you cannot take over the property of people? How can you take the take out the life of the people? And freedom of speech was inherent in India. So the Western notions of constitution, state, king, king's power, the king can do no wrong principle, all these are not applicable in India, even under this constitution. Because under the original way of life of India, these things are not applicable. So my view is India will always be a democracy, even if there is no constitution.
Let's come to another problem which Indian democracy has, the internal party democracy. Can anything be done constitutionally? Because what is happening in India is that from Kashmir to Tamil Nadu, a father handing over a political party to his son or daughter. So this kind of personal political parties have become personal properties. Is there any way that this system should be somehow challenged, maybe in Supreme Court, or is there any way to impose internal democracy within the parties?
See, in which country you call there is internal democracy? You take the United Nations, US. The party is only named. A person emerges and there is election and then he becomes a candidate. There is no party. The party comes alive only when there is election. The British model, which is supposed to have been adopted, tell me, is there a functioning party that is also becoming only a party alive during the elections? But in India, it is not so. A party continuously interacts with the people. Maybe it is a family-based party or an ideological party like the BJP or the communists. There is continuous interaction between the people and the party. That way, India is a functional democracy. There are issues. I'm not saying no. But family parties will die. And they are dying. There is no Charan Singh party today. There is no Devilal party today. Lalu party is dying. Mulayam party is dying. In Tamil Nadu, Karunanidhi party is sunset party. They will have their own innings and go.
So finally, what do you see the future of Indian democracy?
See, India is, as I told you, India is democratic because the society is democratic. You compare India and Pakistan. Why Pakistan will never be a democracy? Why India will only be a democracy? However anarchic it is. J.K. Galbraith said India is a functioning anarchy. When he came in 2001 to India, he was asked, Mr. Galbraith, you said in 1957 India is a functioning anarchy. What do you feel? No, I never said India is a functioning anarchy. I said the Indian government is a functioning anarchy. The society is not. The Indian society is probably the most harmonious society. I'll give you only 3 things. We have 668,000 villages and towns. We have only 14,800 police stations. Our rate of murder, dacoity, theft, rape is the lowest in the world, are amongst the lowest in the world. The society functions because of respect for parents, respect for elders, respect for women. There is a higher norm operating. Do you mean to say India is run by court, law, police, army? They are all important. They are interveners. But the society functions on its own long-held norms. That is social capital. Social capital is not created in one day. It is created over millennia, handed from generation to generation. Liberalism tries to destroy it. The conflict in India is between liberalism and civilizational values. Our civilizational values are very strong. Imagine 67 crore people assembled in one place.
Yeah.
The Pew Research said in 2020 that in America there is political polarization, very hostile political polarization. 60% of the Democratic people would not like to take a girl or a boy from Republican and vice versa. That is the extent of division, polarization. Isn't this polarization is common in all countries? But what is peculiar about America is that there is nothing other than the state, constitution, politics, which unites the country. You know, America has only 3 canonized saints. Italy has 30,000. In America, there is no sacred place. There is no sacred mountain. There is no sacred river. There is no sacred person. But in India, every place is sacred. Can't create this. That sustains India. We are a bottom-upward society. We are not a state constructor from the top. The entire Western state model, as Arun Shourie wrote, marriages, concubinage, divorces, conquests created and destroyed states. When France was formed, maybe about 10-12% of the people would have known the French. The same about it. These are all nations constructed from the top by army, by police, by power, by bloodshed. But in India, we evolved as a nation. It says sages, saints, rishis who constructed India. The state is a supervisory mechanism. So unless you understand the top-down model and the bottom-upwards model, you cannot judge India and Indian democracy. However anarchic it may seem in the eyes of a very orderly Western society, the most orderly state collapsed, Soviet Union. The most efficient state, the US, is in distress. Even England is facing anarchy. These are all top-down states. I am very confident about India because it is not a top-down model. It is a bottom-upwards model.
Certainly it is. And thank you very much indeed. Your words arouse hope, clear mental fog. We hope to listen, we hope to have many more interactions like this in future. Mr. Gurumurthy, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ji, Sudhir ji,